app, Amplified Bible, Classic Edition, AMPC Mark IV. Again, Jesus began to teach beside the lake, and a very great crowd gathered about him, so that he got into a ship in order to sit in it on the sea. And the whole crowd was in the lakeside on the shore. And he taught them many things in parables, illustrations, comparisons, put beside truth to explain them. And in his teaching he said to them, "Give attention to this. Behold, a sower went out to sow, and he was sowing. Some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seeds of the same kind fell on the ground, full of rocks, where it had not much soil, and at once it sprang up, because it had no depth of soil. And when the sun came up, it was scorched, and because it had not taken root, it withered away. Other seed of the same kind fell among thorn plants, and the thistles grew and pressed together, and utterly choked and suffocated it, and it yielded no grain. And the other seed of the same kind fell into good, well-adapted soil, and brought forth again, growing up, and increasing, and yielded up 30 times as much, and 60 times as much, and even 100 times as much as had been sown. And he said, He who has ears to hear, let him be hearing, and let him consider and comprehend. And as soon as he was alone, those who were around him and the 12 apostles began to ask him about the parables. And he said to them, To you has been entrusted the mystery of the kingdom of God, that is, the secret counsels of God which are hidden from the ungodly. But for those outside of the circle, everything becomes a parable, in order that they may indeed look, but not see and perceive, and may hear, but not grasp and comprehend, lest haply they should turn again, and their willful rejection of the truth should be forgiven them. And he said to them, Do you not discern and understand this parable? How then is it possible for you to discern and understand the parables? The sower sows the word. The one along the path are those who have the word sown in their hearts. But when they hear, Satan come at once and by force takes away the message which is sown in them. And in the same way, the one sown upon stony ground are those who, when they hear the word, at once receive and accept and welcome it, and with joy. And they have no real root in themselves. And so they endure for a little while. Then, when trouble or persecution arises, on account of the word, they immediately are offended, become displeased, indigent, resentful, and they stumble and fall away. And the ones sown among the thorns are the others who hear the word. Then the cares of the anxieties of the world and distraction of the age, and the pleasure and delight, false glamour, and deceitfulness of riches, and the cravings and passionate desire of other things creep in and choke and suffocate the word, and it becomes fruitless. And those sown in the ground, well-adapted soil, are the ones who hear the word and receive it and accept and welcome it, and bear fruit, some 30 times as much as was sown, and some 60 times as much, and some even 100 times as much. And he said to them, Is the lamp brought to be put under a peck measure of under a bed, and not to be put on the lampstand? Things are hidden temporarily only as a means to revelation. For there is nothing hidden except to be revealed, nor is anything temporarily kept a secret except in order that it may be known. If any man has ears to hear, let him be listening, and let him perceive and comprehend. And he said to them, Be careful what you are hearing. The measure of thought and study you give to the truth you hear will be a measure of virtue and knowledge that comes back to you, and more besides will be given to you who hear. For to him who has will more be given, and from him who has nothing, even that which he has will be taken away by force. And he said, the kingdom of God is like a man who scatters seed upon the ground, and then continues sleeping and rising night and day, while the seed sprouts and grows and increases, he knows not how. The earth produces, acting by itself, first the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. But when the grain is ripe and permits immediately, he sends forth the reapers and puts out a sickle, and because the harvest stands ready. And he said, with what can we compare the kingdom of God? Or what parable shall we use to illustrate and explain it? It is said, a grain of a mustard seed, which was when sown upon the ground, is the smallest of all seeds upon the earth. Yet after it's sown, it grows up and becomes the greatest in all the garden herbs, and puts out large branches so that the birds of the air are able to make nests and dwell in the shade. With many such parables, Jesus spoke in the word to them, such as they were able to hear and comprehend and understand. He did not tell them anything without a parable, but privately to his disciples, those who were particularly his own, he explained everything fully. That same day, when evening had come, he said to them, let us go over to the other side of the lake. And leaving the throng, they took him and with him, just as he was in the boat, in which he was sitting, and the other boats were with him. And a furious storm of wind and hurricane proportions arose, and the waves kept beating the boat, so that it was already becoming filled. But he himself was in the stern of the boat, also on the leather cushion, and they awoke him and said to him, Master, do you not care that we are perishing? And he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, hush now, be still, muzzled. And the wind ceased, sank to rest as if exhausted by its beating. And there was immediately a great calm, a perfect peacefulness. He said to them, why are you so timid and fearful? How is it that you have no faith, no firming, relying trust? And they were filled with a great awe and feared exceedingly, and said one to another, who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?